Hey everyone, Salsa here. In today's game of Highgrounds, I will be playing a greedy Matriarch army versus Fighter Tribal. The army's purpose is to abuse Tally's Matriarch ability to cheat expensive units such as Cliff, Era, and my commander into play. The reason this version of Matriarch is greedy is because, unlike most other Matriarch armies that feature Arthur, where you would usually Matriarch your commander into Arthur, I opted to Matriarch Arthur into my 30 cost commander. With stats of 7 defense and 3 healing in the back row, and essentially 33 attack in the front row, it is a unit capable of winning the game by itself. Now, on to the rest of the army. 2 Hardens, 2 Mays, 1 Remy, and 1 Vence are the core of my army's economy. Hardens should need no explanation, as 2 belong in almost every single gold army. May is a strictly better John, except in farmer-based economies, and she has the added benefit of adding 2 to my commander's attack when adjacent to him, since Liege buffs both honor and attack. Vence is used to Matriarch into Cliff, since they share the mountain class. Remy is an odd choice, due to his potential to hurt my turn 1 draws, but I find that the recruit he offers helps smooth out my mid-game draws to the point where I do not regret running him. However, I would not recommend running more than 2. Economy units aside, my army also runs the Evelyn and Era Matriarch combo. Evelyn can be an okay turn 2 play if I have weak draws, but other than that, the 1 healing she supplies isn't really that impactful. As previously mentioned, I run 2 Cliffs, which I can Matriarch into with Vence. They are strong beaters, and their 2 defense helps make my front row resilient to wounds. Arthur is generally the last unit I play on the front row, since he is not as reliable as the other units in my army. He is mostly in the army to Matriarch into my commander. For support units, I of course run a single Tally due to her Matriarch ability, and I run 1 Chloe to generate fast currency versus aggro armies, and to protect my first front row unit, namely my commander, from any snipe shenanigans my opponents may employ using her paladin ability. With the army tech out of the way, let us move on to the game. As the game starts, I unfortunately drew Vence on turn 1. While not necessarily game losing, it does prevent me from gaining an early currency advantage, since unlike either Harden or May, who produces 2 gold, he only produces 1. Likewise, unlike Remy, he does not have the inherent 2 recruits. I see that my opponent is likely playing with a Brody deck since he has the Outfitter City, so my game plan changes to try to prioritize rushing an Era rather than trying to beat him down with Cliffs. The first couple of turns aren't necessarily interesting since both of us are just gathering resources. However, my opponent does manage to grab a turn 2 rat, so the threat of Brody is prevalent throughout the entire game. Apart from that, however, we both just continue to gather resources. I see that my opponent is running both Brody and Tavi for back row disruption, since Tavi of course is in the back row producing gold. Expecting him to move Tavi to the second spot of his front row in an attempt to snipe my May, I realize that I need to switch the positions of Vence and May to try to bait out the arrow. More importantly, however, I see that I only have 4 units left in my draw pile, and 2 of those would be both Evelyn and Tally. Therefore, I moved Remy to the front row so that his 2 recruit doesn't impact my draws and force for an early reshuffle so that I can guarantee Era next turn. Unfortunately for me, however, he does not move Tally to the front row. Instead, he moves Brody to the front spot of the front row, wounding both my Remy and May. It doesn't necessarily matter, however, it does force me to sell my May in order to get enough money to get enough gold in order to purchase the units, but all in all it doesn't matter, since an early Era shuts off the Brody wound spam. Since my opponent is primarily a gold-based economy, thus has to have most of his currency producers in the back row, I feel safe moving Tally far down on my back row in order to avoid any back row disruptions from either the Brody's Flare or Tovvy's arrow. He does continue to wound a bit of my back row, but all in all it doesn't matter since at this point I have an era. And era is essentially an automatic win versus fighter decks. I move Harden into the first position of the front row, and Era into the first position of the back row, in order to protect Era from Brody's Flare. Now that Era is essentially invincible, I move Tally down beneath her, followed by Vince, in order to guarantee a Matriarch onto Cliff. At this moment, my opponent realizes that he can't really wound Era, and decides to go into a full aggressive mode, pushing both of his Brodies into the back row, giving each of his fighter units on the front row plus 4 attack each. I take a decent amount of damage this combat phase, dropping down to 4 life, but all in all I still feel pretty sure that I can win this game. This is a particularly difficult turn for me, and in the end I do believe I made the wrong choice. You can see that I push Cliff to the front, I push Era to the front, and I actually purchase Arthur and move him to the front as well. The reason I believe that this was a mistake was because not only do I instantly lose the game if he happens to wound Era with a Brody, but I also have no way to protect Tally from any wounds. I had assumed that after representing the Harden protecting the Evelyn combo, or the Harden protecting Evelyn lock, however you would like to describe it, where his Brody was incapable of wounding her, he wouldn't move Brody back to the front spot on the front row, but evidently, as you can see, I was wrong, as he does just that. This move ends up wounding my Arthur and my Tally, which is completely detrimental to my army. I do in fact win this battle, which is all the more reason that I shouldn't have done this move in the first place. I have 4 more health. I could have spared taking a little bit more damage in order to ensure matriarching into my commander. But all in all, I did make a misplay this turn, and it does nearly cost me the game. Realizing that I quite literally cannot win the game if my Tally is wounded, I try to prioritize getting her healed through Evelyn. I actually have to end up sacking most of my back row as well as my Arthur in order to purchase a Cliff to place in the front row to try to limit the amount of damage that I take, and to purchase an Evelyn in order to heal the Tally. On this turn, I tried to Matriarch Arthur into my commander, and in order to do so, I have to sell both Cliff and Evelyn in order to attain the 15 gold in order to do so. However, even though I devoted a lot of resources into trying to Matriarch into my commander, for some reason I still did not put Evelyn into the back row, and I am punished by him moving Brody to the front spot of the front row and wounding my Tally. I finally decide on this turn that I will move Era into the back row, protected by Cliff in the front spot of the front row, in order to guarantee a Matriarch onto my commander, which, as I stated earlier in the deck tech, is capable of winning the game by itself. All in all, I am kind of lucky that I chose to do it on this turn, because, as you can see by my opponent's combat turn, he misplayed kind of badly. He kept Tavi high up in the front row, rather than further down, where she could get the Rampage bonus. Likewise, he only had 1 Brody in the back row, rather than 2. This misplay left me with 1 health. To put it into perspective, had he had 2 more attack, which either moving Tavi down below or moving his Brody to the back row would have accomplished, I would have actually lost the game. All in all, with my commander on the field and era protecting my tally for the rest of the game is all but over, and there is really nothing left to be said. If you enjoyed this game and would like to play it for yourself, you may do so by following the link in the description. Highgrounds is a free-to-play browser game and very easy to get into due to its low learning curve and daily free units. I plan on doing more Highgrounds gameplay videos with similar commentary, so if you would like to see more of these, feel free to check out my channel. If there is a specific deck that you would like to see, feel free to leave a comment. I would love to play it. I won't talk anymore for the rest of the match, so feel free to enjoy it.